The evening air carried the warmth of a typical April night in Mexico, soft and balmy, wrapping around the crowd like an invisible shroud. The sky stretched endlessly above, a deep indigo canvas dotted with the occasional star, barely visible through the glow of the stage lights. People had come from all around, drawn by the promise of music, of a night where the weight of daily life could be lifted, if only for a few hours. The stage stood tall, adorned with colorful banners, the instruments waiting patiently for the performers to bring them to life. There was a hum of anticipation in the air, the kind that buzzes just beneath the skin, making hearts beat a little faster in excitement. Laughter bubbled up from small groups of friends, their voices mingling with the distant sound of vendors selling drinks and snacks. Couples held hands, their fingers intertwined, swaying gently to the faint rhythm of the sound check. Parents carried children on their shoulders, little ones who would later fall asleep to the lull of music, their heads nodding against the steady beat. Teenagers, full of restless energy, darted through the crowd, their phones held high to capture the night. The atmosphere was alive with joy, with the unspoken understanding that this was a moment to be cherished, a night that would become a memory. Then the music began. The first notes rang out, clear and strong, washing over the crowd like a wave. The performers moved with the kind of energy that only comes from being on stage, their passion radiating outward, pulling everyone into the rhythm. Hands clapped, voices sang along, and for a while, nothing else existed beyond the shared experience of the song. The night was perfect, or at least, it felt that way. But perfection is fragile. The first sound was sharp, a crack that cut through the music like a knife. At first, some thought it was part of the show, a firework, maybe, or a speaker popping. But then it came again, and again. The crowd hesitated, a ripple of confusion passing through them. The music faltered, the singer's voice trailing off as the realization set in. Screams erupted, sudden and panicked, as people turned, trying to understand what was happening. Fear moves faster than thought. The crowd surged, a living thing suddenly thrown into chaos. People stumbled, their feet tangling as they tried to run. Some dropped to the ground, covering their heads, their bodies curling into instinctive balls of self-preservation. Others froze, their minds refusing to process what was happening. The lights that had once illuminated the stage now cast jagged shadows, distorting faces into masks of terror. The music had stopped, replaced by the deafening noise of panic. Shouts, cries, the sound of bodies colliding in the desperate rush to escape. In moments like these, time fractures. Seconds stretch into eternities, and minutes pass in blurs. Somewhere in the crowd, a mother clutched her child to her chest, her arms a shield against the unseen danger. A group of friends who had been laughing moments before now gripped each other's hands, their voices lost in the noise as they tried to stay together. Strangers reached out to help those who had fallen, pulling them up, dragging them toward safety, even as their own legs trembled with fear. Then, the sirens. The distant wail grew louder, cutting through the chaos as emergency vehicles arrived. Red and blue lights flashed, casting eerie reflections on the faces of those who had made it to the edges of the crowd. Police officers shouted orders, their voices strained but steady, directing people away from danger. Paramedics rushed forward, their bags clutched tightly as they searched for the wounded. The air, once filled with music and laughter, now carried the metallic scent of blood, the acrid tang of smoke. The aftermath was a blur of shock and grief. The injured were loaded into ambulances, their faces pale, their hands shaking as they reached for the medics. Some sat on the curb, their heads in their hands, their bodies whole, but their minds shattered. Others wandered, dazed, calling out names, hoping for an answer. The lucky ones found their loved ones quickly, pulling them into tight embraces, their tears mixing with whispered prayers of thanks. But not everyone was so fortunate. As the night wore on, the truth settled in. The numbers climbed. First one, then five, then more. Names became headlines. Faces became memories. The town, once alive with music, now stood in stunned silence. Makeshift memorials sprang up near the venue, flowers piling up alongside handwritten notes, candles flickering in the breeze. Strangers came to pay their respects, their heads bowed, their hearts heavy with sorrow. In the days that followed, the questions began. Why had this happened? How could it have been prevented? The debates raged, but for those who had been there, the answers didn't matter as much as the loss. The music would return eventually, but never in the same way. The memory of that night would linger, a shadow over every future concert, every gathering. But tonight, as you listen to this story, let the weight of it drift away. The world can be a painful place, but here, in the quiet, you are safe. The images may linger in your mind, but they don't have to stay. Breathe in and out, and let the night carry them away. The candles in Mexico still burn, tiny flames against the darkness, and as you close your eyes, imagine their light, gentle and persistent, a reminder that even in tragedy, there is still warmth, still hope. Now let your mind grow quiet. Let your breaths come slow and steady. The story is over, and sleep is waiting.